Hi, Stew Heads. Welcome back to another episode of Remnant Stew, where today we are taking a walk on the wild side.
Ooh.
I'm your host, Leah.
I'm Phil.
From freaky deer to talented otters, singing dogs, and strange butterflies, today we'll be sharing with you stories of incredible animals.
If you have an appetite for the strange and bizarre, then pull up a chair and grab a spoon for another intriguing serving of Remnant Stew. Remnant Stew is gluten-free, organic, made from all natural, free-range ingredients, and guaranteed to provide the recommended daily serving of curiosity.
Well, Steve is still gallivanting all over Northern Europe with his wife,
Seriously?
Judy, and they took Sir Kraken with them.
Oh, he's getting a lot of miles.
You can see photos of Sir Kraken in different places on our Facebook and Instagram, and I'm really jealous. But I think one of the places that they went was Iceland, where they saw some rune stones, and then Croatia. I know, like one of the last places they were was Croatia. I think now they're in the UK, about to come home.
Right.
So the very next episode, Steve will be back with us. But today we are covering weird and fantastic animal facts and stories. And we've already covered some really cool animal facts in past episodes of Remnant Stew. One of my favorites is that manatees use their farts to control their buoyancy.
Well, hey, you know.
As something Phil's tried to imitate this past summer. Got
It
kicked out of the pool.
So well. It was fun, though.
And we've talked a lot about octopuses and how intelligent they can be, and also very skilled at escaping their enclosures. And in our All Aglow episode, we discussed many undersea creatures that use bioluminescence to escape prey. There's a shrimp that spits out a glowing loogie to disorient their prey so they can quickly run away. You remember that one?
Yes, and you're looking at it, you're thinking in your heads, I know you all are. Wait, I want to see that.
Yeah,
I don't need to be disoriented. That's cool. Oh, wait, where'd he go? That's
right. There you go. That's exactly how it works. So one of our best episodes concerning animals, though, was our four-legged soldiers, where we talk about the various dogs and even a bear that aided soldiers in wartime. Then there were some crazy weaponized animal ideas like snake bombs or anti-terrorism dolphins.
The bats.
The bats, that's right. It was a really fun episode. You should check it out if you haven't already listened to it. For today's wild episode, we have Bailey in the studio. Hey there, thanks for coming in and talking with us.
So not the drama. Hi guys, how y'all doing?
Bailey is a zookeeper, and today we're going to discuss some of the different species of animals she's cared for over the years. She has some pretty crazy stories.
It's going to be fun.
Stories.
So your experience with animals goes back to your childhood. I believe you started working with animals when you, were 11 years old?
Yes, I was at a facility volunteering over there whenever I was 11. I wasn't working with the animals, though, until I was about 13, which, wow, big difference between 11 and 13 whenever considering wild animals. It was a different day back in the day, but...
Well, before we get into all of that, let me ask you this. When did you know that you liked animals more than most people? Because kids love cats and dogs and things. But how did you know, or when did you know that you were just a little bit more into animals than the normal kid?
It's hard to pinpoint because I feel like for most of my life, I was just surrounded by animals. My mom really, really put in this love for animals from a young age. But at one point we did get a dog, and her name was Macy, and she was the best dog. And then I decided from that age that my favorite animal was going to be puppies, specifically puppies, not just dogs, but puppies. But that eventually turned into loving other animals once I started getting into school and learning about just animals in the wild. I think at one point I was like, I love coyotes, and then that turned into wolves, especially whenever my sister started at this wolf sanctuary whenever she was in middle school for National Honor Society, and I was like, oh, I am obsessed with that. I want to be a part of that, and that's kind of how it all started.
So that was your gateway. So the wolf was the gateway drug into the animal world.
Yes, it very much was.
Well, how many different kinds of pets did you have growing up?
I had a bunch of cats at various stages throughout my life. We kind of live out in, the country-ish, so, stray cats would come around. And then I've had a few dogs, and then box turtles really randomly. And I think that's pretty much everything that I've had as a pet personally.
Okay, well, before we start talking about these different sanctuaries, we do have to address one thing. We are going to be vague about where the exact locations that she worked. You want to get into why that is?
Yes. So big disclaimer, nothing that I say reflects any facility that you may find out that I work at if you delve into my past for any reason. But it's specifically because animal facilities, especially nowadays with these movements towards animal welfare, not saying it's a bad thing, but these movements towards animal welfare, we have to be very careful about how we portray ourselves in media.
Because things can get extreme. There's some extreme people out there, those types of people that jump into the gorilla enclosure thinking that they don't realize that wild animals are wild animals. And
exactly.
They think that they need to be taken care of like children.
And then there's like the other extreme where people make documentaries such as Blackfish that just rag on facilities for things that have happened in the past and things that are even low-key kind of made up, come to find out. And either way, it's still a bad rap for these facilities. So got to be really careful about how we portray ourselves. And so not going to name any names because I don't want to.
Well, and we're going to say that, okay, so you're a zookeeper and you work at a pretty major zoo.
Yes.
And you have worked at different wolf sanctuaries, wild animal sanctuaries and things. And one of the points that we want to make is that these places, zoos specifically, but also these sanctuaries, display of the animals isn't always the primary priority.
Right.
A lot of it's conservation and and it depends on what sanctuary or what facility it is, but some may be more for the display and touristy kind of places, but a lot of them, especially zoos, are real. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that people don't understand. Dealing with conservation, right?
Exactly. There's a lot of species survival programs, SSPs for short, if you're using the terms in the zoo. We have a lot of conservation efforts that are involved with SAFE, which is saving animals. I forgot the acronym. No, I'm a terrible zookeeper. My bad. But it's kind of like this general conservation effort that goes through, especially AZA accredited facilities, which is Association of Zoos and Aquariums. It's a super big accreditation that you can get that just kind of ensures like you get the best care for the animals, that you are providing the best care. And it's really helpful, especially when you're trying to make sure you're not going to like a zoo that might not have the best intentions in mind, to look for an AZA. Quick tip from a zookeeper. But yeah, they do so much to help with animal conservation. And I know at my zoo, every ticket that you buy actually goes towards conservation, a portion of it. Another portion is going towards our animal care and my paycheck.
Right. Well, they got to pay the bills. They got to pay, keep the lights on. So, okay, so going back to your very first wolf sanctuary. Mm-hmm. You started working there when you were 11, but not necessarily. Oh, and one of the things is if you want to be a zookeeper or a volunteer, you got to be really comfortable with poop.
Yes, super comfy with it.
So that's kind of what you started out dealing with, right?
Basically. Started out just cleaning up after the animals, not as much animal interaction. And half of it is just to see, the sanctuary wants people that are actually, interested in being involved. So, if you can deal with the worst of it, you can deal with anything kind of thing.
Right. Start you at the bottom, really at the bottom.
Yes, very, very bottom. But yeah, so you always get stuck with all, the really gross jobs and stuff. And I haven't even graduated from all the gross jobs. Now I just have more other responsibilities that are a little bit more fun than that. But,
What type of work did you start out doing when you were 11 and then kind of graduate into? And how long were you at this specific sanctuary?
I was there for almost 8 years. So a really long time. I was there forever.
For all your teenage years, for the most part.
Yes. Up until adulthood. And then the jobs that I started out with whenever I first started was, I literally like sweeping walkways and stuff, just to like be a part of it, to help keep things maintained around the area, just so that I could show that I was super interested and like really wanted to be a part of things. So that's what I kind of started out with. And then it graduated into more of an animal care situation once I turned 13. And they were like, sure, you can work with wolves at the age of 13. And
and you're lucky it was that way, but it's not that way now, right?
No, you would be very hard-pressed to find a situation like that. Very hard-pressed. That was really random. It was super random.
Well, okay, and tell us about the animals at this sanctuary.
So they ranged from literally like 100% wolf to a literal dog. And in between you have what's called a wolf dog, or a wolf dog hybrid. We don't really use that term anymore. We just use wolf dog. And they ranged from like high content, which means a lot of wolf, to mid and low content, which means like half wolf-ish, and then like a little bit of wolf and mostly dog.
Okay. And where did they come from?
Oh, literally like anyone, like their house, like people's houses, animal shelters, sanctuaries that couldn't care for them anymore, animal breeders that like couldn't take care of them either, or couldn't find someone who wanted to buy these animals from them. So that's kind of where that came from. A lot of involvement with like the wild animal trade and the black market and stuff like that.
Okay. So a lot of the sanctuaries the sanctuaries, the wolf and regular animal sanctuaries, don't they mostly get their animals from people that didn't quite understand
what they were getting
into when they got this cute little
Yes.
puppy or kitty or okay.
Yes. Sanctuaries would deal with the ones that came from the animal trade for the most part. And then occasionally you'll get animals that like got injured in the wild, but that's mostly reserved for rehabbers at that point,
right.
Injured animals. So sanctuaries specifically deal with the issue of people purchasing wild animals, like really dangerous ones at times, and then finding out, wow, like this wasn't meant to be domesticated and we probably shouldn't be having this. We need to find a place for it.
I follow a bear sanctuary.
Nice.
That is that Southeast Texas bear sanctuary.
Oh, cool.
This thing's about to eat my kid.
Well, you know,
Literally.
Truly.
Yeah. So what's the difference between wolves and dogs? Like when you get an animal in to one of these sanctuaries, how can you tell how much wolf and how much dog? I mean, you can do it by DNA testing, but I'm sure you didn't do that all the time.
Exactly. So there is DNA testing, and it's really, really expensive, especially if you get the like really high-end one, which right now is embark testing. They have the most research done, so they have the most accuracy. But what we would do, since we didn't have the funds for that, because it runs a lot of money, is we would use phenotyping. So a quick little science lesson. Phenotyping, phenotypes are the genetic representation of, the physical representation of genetic information, or to put it in like, I guess dumb it down a little bit just to help.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Just for Phil.
Yeah, I know. It's like a mouthful.
I'll take it. Please, in English.
Yes, no problem. So it would be like whatever your DNA says you're going to look like is going to be represented through your physical traits, what you look like. So phenotypes are those physical traits. My DNA said I was going to have brown hair, so I have brown hair. And so that would be the phenotype, is the brown hair.
Okay. And so how does that
translate to
wolf dog, right?
Yeah, so there's actually a lot of differences between wolves and wolf dogs. Some of them are very obvious, some of them not so much. And we mostly look at like, you know, the animals that look more like wolves, like German Shepherd Huskies, because 99% of the time whenever we would get a call of someone that's like, this dog or this wolf is carrying my house apart, it'd literally be like a German Shepherd Husky mix, and we'd be like, okay, look, you would try to buy a wolf and it's a dog and you still can't take care of it. Love that for you. But
nicely done.
Yeah, exactly. You basically have all of these traits, from everything from nose to tail. So you have like, they have larger heads than most dogs do and larger paws. They have like these nice little almond-shaped eyes, of course, and they have like more of a lean body structure. Their tail is like, doesn't go past their hock, which is that little like foot joint. So many little details that you can look at to distinguish a wolf from a dog.
And behavioral.
Yes.
Too. Not just physical, but behavioral.
Exactly. So phenotypes can actually be behavioral, and they can also go into stuff like hormone production as well. So it's still like a thing that you can physically see. So that's considered a phenotype. And so behavioral-wise, wolves tend to be very like leery of people typically, whereas dogs obviously aren't not. Most
they
dog
want
breeds
to
anyway.
get on your couch and snuggle, whereas a wolf
Exactly.
might not.
And then the issue
They're going to
arises.
stare at you across the room going, is that dinner?
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, for the most part, we would run into issues where you would have a wolf-dog mix, any content, honestly. It just depended on, like, which behavioral traits they would get, but you honestly never know what you're going to get with a wolf-dog. Like, you can pretty much guarantee what a wolf is going to do and what a dog is going to do. But whenever you mix it with a wolf, then you start to get this mix, and you can't always tell what they're going to present, and that's a really dangerous situation.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Snap.
Any particular, any specific animals that you loved there?
So we had this big guy named Achilles. He was an Arctic wolf. Still is an Arctic wolf. He's still there. And he was humongous.
I think we have a picture.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's the one. That's him.
And you're training him.
Yes. So we train a lot of behaviors in any facility that does training, mostly for vet visits and stuff, like medical procedures. So voluntary procedures like blood draws and stuff. And in this photo, I'm actually doing a present pause behavior where he puts his paws up on the fence so that we can like look at his belly and look at his paws and make sure nothing's going on over there, just to keep an eye on it. At one point it came in handy because he scratched his little paw, and we got a little photo
His
of it.
little paw. This animal's huge.
He is really big, sorry.
And let me just clarify, he is in a cage and you are outside the cage.
Yes. We did do free contact in this facility, and he was honestly kind of a ham because he was like a multi-generation bred animal, so he was a little bit more relaxed. He would go through hormonal changes despite the fact that he was fixed, because males and females, like during the fall, they just, that's whenever they breed, and you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes he would like kind of get nasty with me, and I'd be like, okay, we're not going in with you today. Never mind. Sorry, dude. But he at this point was outside of the or inside the enclosure, and I was outside of the enclosure. We never went in with food. So, with training, the reinforcement we would give them was food, and you never want to enter an enclosure with a wolf with food if possible. So,
Right. But the way you were training him was interesting because it's the way we train our dogs. It's click training.
Yes.
Right.
It's a very cool little trick that you can use. I wouldn't say trick, just a tool, really. It's where you can kind of bridge a behavior. So whenever you see a behavior you want, you can use the clicker so that they know that the clicker means something. So usually you would click and like give them a treat. And so they know that that's what the click means. It means they're getting a treat. So they're like, oh, I'm getting something whenever I do like whatever I did that got the click. So we would click them to kind of bridge the gap in between like the reinforcement, which is the food, and the command that we were giving, and them actually doing the command.
Okay.
So whenever he would put his paws up, I would just click and then good, and then give him a treat.
And he knew he did well.
Exactly. And he was a really good boy, and his focus was super stupid. Like, he would give me the dumbest face whenever he knew he was getting food, and I was like, what kind of wolf are you at this point?
So majestic, right?
Exactly. He looked like a fool. It was the best.
Well, at this time, I want to take a moment to give a shout out to two of our best fans, 13-year-old Kaylin and his 9-year-old sister Ainsley. Hi, guys.
Howdy.
Their mom, Erin, told me that Remnant Stew is one of their favorite podcasts, and they try to keep up with the episodes. I heard that Kaylin's favorite animal is the bald eagle, but then he loves all kinds of raptors. Ainsley, on the other hand, prefers mythological animals of all kinds. It really loves unicorns and mermaids, but if she had to pick a real animal, her favorite would be a baby panda or a baby polar bear. And so we're telling you, Ainsley, you need to check out the red panda, right? They are adorable. They look like a mix between a fox and a panda. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. I also want to share some weird animal trivia. So one of the things that you work with now are river otters.
Yes.
And
Ooh.
I've known Bailey for a long time, and it's one of our favorite animals that we love together is otters. And they're so adorable and playful. They like to fidget, and they've been observed juggling rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not juggling like throwing them up in the air and catching them, but an otter will lay on its back and roll a rock or two over their chest and neck from one paw to the other, and sometimes even tossing the rock in the air and catching it. It looks a bit like juggling, and researchers have no real idea why they do that.
Just for fun.
They're bored.
Well, they notice that young otters do it more often than older otters. So just like the kids with the fidget spinners. Also, otters have pockets.
Yes.
They will hang on to their favorite rocks sometimes. Some otters will do this and stow them in their pockets, which is kind of like their armpit. Mm-hmm. It's really kind of their armpit. So yes, otters have pockets. I got my information from smithsonianmag.com. Okay. This is going to, the next thing that you did, the next place that you worked was as a zoo volunteer.
Yes.
How old were you and how many years?
I started with their teen program whenever I was about 15 years old. And I did that until I was 17. So I suppose 3 years. We did 3 weeks during the summer, and I started out with the camps and then got to work with their hoofstock department, which was super fun.
Hoofstock, what does that mean?
Yeah, so that's going to be your large hoofed animals. So like giraffes, rhinos, copious, and then some smaller hoofstock as well. So we had like dikers and a bunch of...
wait, you had what?
Oh, dikers. They're like a species of... Well, I think they're just like by themselves like dikers. Oh, but they look like a mix between like a deer and a pig. They're just, but in the best, cutest way possible.
That's not bringing up a really good...
I know. They just like, they kind of have like that roundness of a pig, but they have like the face of a deer and like a nose of a deer, and it was really cute.
Okay.
Like, I've had the little haids.
Do they get little, are they as small as a pig and not as tall as a deer? Are they kind of halfway in the between?
Well, that's hard because pigs can get humongous.
Right. Yeah, there's a wide range of sizes of pigs.
Like kune size? I don't know if that's helpful.
Okay, we have no clue what you just said.
Kune pig. Sorry, I work with some new piglets right now. They're adorable, but they get like really big, like 200 pounds. So.
Oh, okay. Wow.
But this was like a leaner. I know we're going off a tangent like about dikers.
That's
dikers
okay.
are really cool.
We're good with this.
Oh, okay.
Because the rest of the audience are going, yes, tell us more.
Yes, more about dikers. There's like a lot of species of dikers. I don't know exactly how many because I never really focused on.
Is it
dikers.
D-I-K?
D-U-I-K-E-R.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really weird spelling, but they live in the Congo of Africa, so where your okapi would live. And y'all did an episode on okapi at one point.
We talked about it, yeah.
Yes.
And is it okapi or okapi? Okapi.
Okapi is like the African way of saying it.
Okay.
So like the actual like...
It looks
So
like...
technically we butchered it.
We did, yeah.
You said it the colonist way, I guess.
We're remnants, dude. That's what we do. So they're really cool. They look like a small giraffe in the front and a zebra in the back.
Yes. So business in the front, party in the back. They're really cool. I loved working with okapi. And of course the dikers, because most of the time dikers are really scared, but we had some that were a little bit more like up front. And so I got to like pet one of them. And it was really cute. It was a yellow-backed diker, for anyone who would know the distinction.
I've got to look those up. Okay. Yeah. And you worked with elephants,
yes,
too, which is one of my favorites. So.
Yeah, that was my last year in the teen programs. I worked with Asian elephants, which were super, super cool. They're honestly super strange animals to work with. They have very specific attachments that they make with their keepers. And so me as a volunteer, especially a teen volunteer, it was kind of like, who are you? Like, I don't know, like, who you are, so whatever.
They're I don't want to say human-like, but they are in their relationships.
Yes, they have very complicated relationships with each other, even to the point of, like, sort of like jealousy, I guess you could say. It's hard, like, not to anthropomorphize these guys just because they're so intelligent. But, like one elephant would be pregnant and be getting all of this attention, and then the other elephants would be like, I want all that attention. I'm so irritated that you're getting all this attention, and just kind of like act out and kind of like pick on the one that was being pregnant and stuff. So it was a lot. It was a lot of drama.
And elephants are pregnant for like 2 years,
yes,
right?
Almost 2 years.
Wow.
It is a long time.
And there was one that was pregnant and gave birth right after you left, right?
Yes, and it was really irritating, except for the fact that we share a birthday, so it was born on my birthday. So that was like the one little okay, I guess we can get away with it. Like, I share a birthday with this elephant now, but yeah, she's about to. Oh shoot, she's a lot older than 2 years by now. She's like 5. Hold on. 7? Oh no!
And she just carried the one, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to count on my hands. I was like, how old am I? I don't know.
That's funny. Here's some other strange animal behavior that involves butterflies. If you've ever seen a bunch of butterflies just standing on the ground near a puddle or mud, what they're doing is called puddling. Most people think that all a butterfly requires is nectar, but actually they need other nutrients, specifically sodium as well, and butterflies will get it by ingesting liquids from a variety of places like mud, animal dung, fermenting fruit, and even from dead animals. I've even seen pictures where they're like just around a patient's animal's eye, like a horse's eye or something, just sucking the fluid off of the eye.
Yeah.
And I have a picture that I'm going to post on our social media that is a butterfly inside of an alligator's mouth, because the alligators sit there with their mouths open for so long, and the butterfly is just right there.
Picking
hanging out. That's right. I got my info from AdirondackAlmanac.com. Back to Bailey. You also worked at various other places. Can you describe some of those places without naming them?
Yes. So I worked at a place that had alligators, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite animals, which is really cool that you had that little fact about the butterflies and the alligators, because I'm obsessed with both of those, so much. The alligators are really cool. I got to learn, a lot about them, the fact that they're just so smart and intelligent. You wouldn't think so, because, you see an alligator and you're like, big, biting, chompy machine. But they're actually closer related to, birds and stuff than they are to other lizards, and with that comes a lot of really cool vocalizations and a lot of intelligence.
So are they different from crocodiles in that way?
Yeah, so, not so much. Crocodiles are also like that.
Okay.
So, crocodilians in general, I should say. So not just, specifically alligators, but crocodilians, they are all closer related to birds than they are to lizards.
I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah, they're so fun. I mean, the things that I learned just from that one summer working with them was insane. Just how, we even got to teach them, an open mouth response to, get a better look inside their mouths to see if, they had anything weird going on with their teeth. And they knew it. They knew open, and they would just, open their mouth, and we'd just drop food in there.
Did you do click training with them, or?
We did not. We just did good, which is also a cue that you can use.
Right. A clicker is just a sound, and
exactly.
You can do it with your mouth too. Yeah,
exactly. So at this facility, we did not, just because I don't know. I think their main trainer, he just didn't use it, so it just never happened, which is fine. It's a minor distinguished thing, or just minor thing to distinguish with. But yeah, the alligators were really cool. And then I also worked at a safari park that same summer. It was a really crazy summer, to be honest. I'm not even going to lie. I was at 3 different facilities at the same time. It was crazy.
Wow.
I do not recommend. But I worked at a safari park, which was super cool because I got to work with all my favorite hoofstock again. Almost all of them, anyway. Giraffes and stuff. That was really fun. And then I got to work with a bunch of reptiles while I was there. So, sulcata tortoises and some really cool snakes. Some super cute snakes, eastern hognose snakes. Those were so cute.
If you say so.
Sure, I'll just take your word for it, because over here we're going, I don't think a snake can be cute.
Honestly, that's not true. I have seen snakes that are cute. Not that I really want to pet them, but pictures of them, I'm good with it.
I don't know. I think snakes are adorable, especially ball pythons and corn snakes. Those are the most chill snakes, and we had one where I could just kiss his little head like a popcorn snake. Or sorry, corn snake. His name was Popcorn. He was cutie. I get just a little, mwah, and he was like, oh, it's cool. So he was a cool little snake. And then I also got to work with like sulcata tortoises, which are like a really big species of tortoise. Wow. Not like Galapagos tortoise size, but still pretty significant.
Okay, say the name again.
Sulcata tortoise or African spurred tortoise is another name they go by. And they have these really cool like little spiky things on their legs that look like little spurs. They aren't really like sharp. They just look really cool. I don't actually know what they are for. I was working with a lot of species at the time, so like my education kind of was like all over the place. So I missed whatever the spurred tortoise. If someone out there knows, definitely put it in the comments or something.
That's right. So if you know what the spurs are for on the what tortoise?
It's an African spurred tortoise or a sulcata tortoise.
Okay. Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm not a herpetologist by any means. I'm like basic with my large mammals, so large and small mammals. So if anyone knows that would be really interesting. I'd learn something as well. So those were really cool. And then I also got to work with some small mammals whenever I was there, including some tamandua. Yeah, so I can tell. Y'all might not know.
And we just went, huh?
Yeah, it's okay.
Never heard of that.
It's totally fine. I know all about these guys. These guys are also called lesser anteaters. They are a small species of anteater. There's 2 subspecies. And I worked with the southern tamanduas, and they are honestly super cute. They're mini anteaters, basically. These guys are going to be arboreal, which means that they live in trees. So they have a prehensile tail, unlike the giant anteater, which is really cool. But they still have those big old claws on their arms and like super strong like biceps.
Speaking of anteaters, I just saw a picture the other day of Salvador Dali walking through. It wasn't in America. I want to say it was in London. Walking his pet anteater.
That makes total sense.
That is so stressful.
And it was a giant anteater.
Right. It's still super stressful because like those things sometimes take on jaguars and win. Like,
oh wow,
dude. So they have giant like knives on the end of their arms. Basically, they walk on their knuckles because their claws are so big that they can't like just walk flat-footed. So they walk on their knuckles, and these claws are meant to tear open termite mounds, which out in that area are real big. And basically like concrete. So they're able to like dig their claws in and just rip them apart and then like eat the termites out of these termite mounds. So whenever they're fighting with like jaguars and stuff, what they do is they'll stand on their back legs and kind of like swipe like, oh, I hit my mic. They'll swipe like over their shoulder, like around, or they'll just push both of them right down like in an X formation at their predator. So like there's videos of them like going after jaguars and stuff.
Like Wolverine. That's what I'm picturing. Like
Dude,
Wolverine.
They're freaky. Like you can look it up. Their claws are massive. So honestly, like that's terrifying. I'm like, you let them in London?
Hey, he had it on a leash. So
yeah, that's gonna work.
Okay, that makes up for it, I guess. You can't slash through it or nothing. It's fine.
Just slash his Achilles heel and toast. Walk off.
One of my favorite animals that you mentioned working with, and I had no idea what these were, New Guinea singing dogs. Tell us about that.
Oh my gosh. So I worked with these guys. I can actually say this facility because I got permission from the director because she's like my bestie and super cool. Is it okay if I give her a shout out?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Brittany McDonald, director at Wild Spirit Wolf Sanctuary.
And that's in New Mexico?
Yes, right? It's in New Mexico. It's pretty close to like the Arizona area, like 2 hours outside of Albuquerque, in the middle of absolutely nowhere. So
it's I guess a good place for it.
I suppose.
Well, these New Guinea singing dogs are not, I mean, they are wild animals, but they're not mean. They're like dogs.
They're very silly, goofy, and part of that, part of the reason that they're like that is because they have like no predators and they live on an island, near Papua New Guinea, I think, or it is Papua New Guinea, which is like a small area for them to live in, and they're the apex predator, and so nothing's like competing with them. And if you look at a New Guinea singing dog, they're like the size of a Cocker Spaniel, maybe. Like so,
and we'll have pictures. We'll have pictures. I want to say we have a picture of you with a couple, but I'm not sure I have those pictures, but you need to get them to me.
Yeah, I will. They're just too cute. And I worked with a few of them that were at Wild Spirit Wolf Sanctuary, and they are just so stupid, cute, and like goofy.
What, do they like 4-part harmony, or do they just sing what kind of tune?
Sort of.
Well, okay, and I have information about it here. They're an ancient lineage of dog. Like their DNA or their, evolution or whatever, they split from a dog a long time ago, even though they look just like a dog. And they were once considered a separate species in their own right. But it's closely related to the Australian dingo, and they're one of the rarest dogs. So we were talking about this the other day. There's roughly 100 in captivity. And this sanctuary that you worked with had how many?
So we only had 4. Actually, originally we had 6, but we rescued them from a hoarding situation of something like 80.
Wow. So they had almost right there in that
population in one house.
That's right.
Yeah, and at least that's what I was told.
And and they're known because they howl, but they howl a little bit differently than a dog does. Like they hit like one note together. Yeah. I have
Yankee Doodle Dandy or something.
Well, I have a cool YouTube video. We're gonna play it. Hold on, just a second.
Oh my word.
But she's over there laughing.
Well, it's because like every time that we were around, anytime anything would happen, or like literally whenever they were like expecting something, they would all just make that exact noise. All 4 of them, because there were 4 by the time I got there. Because these animals were older and inbred and had like health issues and stuff. But every time like 3 o'clock hit, that's typically whenever we would pass out like any medications that any of the animals needed. In the afternoon, like 3 o'clock, and I'd listen and I'd hear bow like that, like from 4 different singing dogs, and it's obnoxious. And I'm like, whoever had 80 of these things had to have lost their freaking mind, because these guys were loud. They were competing with the wolves and winning. Like, it was loud. Like, we had 60 wolves there, and they were the loudest. Like, it was crazy, or something close to 60. But yeah, they every time it was like I could hear them, I'd be like, oh, 3 o'clock, I guess. And like,
that's funny. Oh! And one of the weird things about these dogs is that they can really climb trees.
So the ones that we had, since they were older and like had issues with inbreeding and stuff, they weren't as apt for it. But they can climb, and like wherever their head can fit, so can the rest of their body. So if like literally, it was crazy. They're just weird. They can like twist their head like completely around, like in these weird angles, and it's really scary. It looks like they're breaking their neck. Like Bowie, one of the animals there, I love him to death. He's such a handsome man. Every time that we would go up to like give him like any food or anything, he'd get like really excited and start like twisting his head weird and like licking the fence post, which is also funny because like sometimes he gets tongue stuck there because it gets cold there. And we'd be like, Bowie, no. But like, he just like, I'm just sitting here looking at him like bending it backwards, looking like he's breaking his neck, and being like, wow, the apex predator of New Guinea.
Right there,
wagging his stupid little tail, so excited.
And a reminder, it's kin to a dingo.
Yeah. We had those there too. Those were super cool. Glacier, Ozzy, and Uluru, they were handsome. They were retired SSPs.
What does that mean?
Species Survival Program. So they were involved with that before they came to Wild Spirit Wolf Sanctuary. And they were really cool. And I don't know, they were, I just love the dingoes. I love everything that like Australia made anyway, for the most part, even the venomous stuff.
Oh my goodness.
And now for something completely off topic and off kilter. Brace yourself for the oddity du jour.
Everyone knows what a selfie is. The word was officially entered into the dictionary in 2013, and we've all seen the usually clickbait type of stories about people doing dangerous things trying to take the perfect selfie, and sometimes even dying. Well, this story is a different type of danger involving a selfie. famous people have sort of a love-hate relationship with social media. They need it in order to further their careers, but there's a balance to also maintain some sort of private life and to protect themselves from would-be stalkers. So when a celebrity takes a selfie, they are usually very careful to do it away from their actual home, or to at least make sure that there's not any landmarks or anything that they include in the picture that can help determine their location. Well, in September of 2019, a certain Japanese pop singer that will remain unnamed here just because the articles that I looked at for this and researched for this kept her anonymous as well. I mean, her name is out there, but anyway, we're going to just keep her anonymous. She was careful to do just that. She uploaded a selfie to social media, careful to make sure there was nothing identifiable in the background. But that didn't stop a particularly obsessed fan turned stalker named Hibiki Sato. He took the ambiguous selfie as a challenge and was able to sleuth out her location, and he lay in wait. When the pop star returned to her apartment from an outing, Sato was quick to attack her. The exact details of the assault were hard to come by. I was really impressed with the articles that I came across researching this, because they treated her with a lot of respect.
Right.
But the 21-year-old idol did have facial injuries that took a week to heal. The extent of her mental and emotional damage, though, is hard to imagine. By all accounts, the pop star had taken every precaution to keep her location a secret, so how did the stalker manage to find her? Well, all he had to do was stare into her eyes. According to Japan Today, quote, Sato said he'd been able to determine where his target lived by looking at selfies she posted on social media, specifically by looking at the reflection in her eyes of the surrounding scenery and outdoor shots.
Oh, man.
When I watch a lot of crime shows, and when they do that, and, they blow up a picture and they get you're going, really? No, y'all don't do that. Well, this guy did. The images were tiny and unfocused, but Sato was undeterred. And I assume his name is Sato. It might be Sato. It's Sato.
Yeah.
But he was undeterred and managed to compare the images in the pop star's eyes to those he found on Google Street View. He was able to determine that her eyes were reflecting the image of a particular railway stop. And from there, he was able to increasingly narrow down the general location of her apartment. Sato did this by scrutinizing photos the singer had taken inside her apartment, specifically the curtain placement. I mean, because you're thinking, if you don't have anything but like curtains or a wall behind you, it'd be fine.
But from the street, he was able to. No,
I mean, it didn't even look out into the street. He was looking at the direction of the way the light was coming through the window to figure out which building she lived in. That was all he needed to know. I don't think he knew exactly what apartment it was, but he just waited outside of the apartment
area.
Until she came home.
Creepy dude.
Fortunately, Sato was easy to catch and to convict. He confessed to the crime and his methods and is currently serving a sentence of up to 30 months in prison. The Japanese press went on to also warn about giving the peace sign in selfies. And I'm not sure they're giving the peace sign or just just showing, flashing that. I don't know if that means peace to the, I don't know. Because, it's just something that the Japanese often do in photos. They say it's because fingerprints can be stolen that way, although there's no evidence anyone has actually done that yet.
Wow.
I got a lot of my information from the email newsletter called Now I Know by Dan Lewis, which I highly recommend you signing up for. Well, back to our walk on the wild side. Bailey, do you remember a conversation we had a few years ago about strange deer?
Yeah. You're weird.
Okay, so I'm always that person that always has a weird story. So my family goes, oh, tell me a weird story. And I've always curated something strange. Bailey's kind of the same way, but it always has to do with animals.
Always.
And we got together a few years ago and we were talking about how strange the water deer is. And she told me about the water deer. I'm like, what? It's a deer that's native to China and Korea. It's also called the vampire deer because of its fangs. It's like Bambi with fangs. The water deer has tusks that can get up to 2 inches long. They don't have antlers, but they use their tusks much like they would use antlers with the bucks fighting each other during mating season. These quirky little deer only get to be about 2 feet tall and weigh around 20 to 30 pounds. So they're, scrappy little things with these, with fangs.
They've got short deer syndrome.
Water, right. Actually, I don't know. I think they're pretty docile, except,
during mating season.
Yeah.
Hey,
Right.
But they get their name, water deer get their name because they prefer to live around rivers, swamps, streams, and other sources of water. They also are very good swimmers. I got my information from oneearth.org.
You always got to watch out for those little deer because you can even find omnivorous ones like the muntjac. Those things are weird.
Oh, okay, tell us about that. The what?
They're called muntjac, and they're called muntjac deer, although now that I think about it, I wonder if they even classify as deer specifically, but that's what they're called, and they're just, really little, but they're also omnivorous, so they also eat, small, frogs and, small mammals and stuff like that, as well as just, being a deer, so they also eat plants and stuff. They're weird.
Well,
Animal Kingdom's something else.
That brings me to my next freaky deer story. I recently came across this intriguing news story. Are you guys aware of body farms?
Yes.
Of course, Bailey.
Sorry.
Because we have these conversations. A body farm is a unique research facility where decomposition of humans and other animals can be studied in a variety of settings.
Yes.
The purpose is to educate law enforcement, detectives, and medical staff on how decomposition plays out in different scenarios. And some bodies, these are bodies that are donated by science or to science, are left out in the open.
When you check that box that says donated to science.
Okay, donated to science. If you are an organ donor, this is not what's happening to you. It's not that.
It's
I
your
don't
body,
want to.
and you donate your body to science.
And a lot of people that work in these facilities or in the administration or whatever, it's such a good cause. It really is. That's where a lot of the bodies come from, or people that are affiliated with it want to further the research.
To help with the learning and the education to make it better to determine what's really happening to the body.
Right. And as I was saying, so some bodies are left out in the open. Some might be buried in a shallow grave. Some might be left in the trunk of a car just to figure out. That's right. Figure out what happens. The initial body farm was located on the grounds of University of Tennessee. Now 7 such facilities exist across the U.S., and we have one right down the street at Sam Houston State University in Huntsville. I didn't know that until I was researching this. And
not bad.
Okay,
glad we're not downwind.
That's the truth.
Honestly. Getting to the deer, though, in a 2017 article for SmithsonianMagazine.com, there's a picture of a regular white-tailed deer on the grounds of the body farm, or a body farm, the Forensic Anthropology Research Facility in San Marcos, Texas. What's unusual about the photo is that the deer is clearly munching on a human rib.
Yep.
The deer's looking directly into the game camera with the rib hanging from its mouth. It's a little bizarre looking.
Barbecued, maybe with a little Cajun seasoning.
Well, in this Texas heat, it might be barbecued.
I agree. It is hot out there.
Researchers were conducting a study on how a cadaver is affected by scavengers. So this particular body was placed in a wooded area with a game camera set up nearby to record which animals came by for a snack. They were surprised by the appearance of the deer. While it's known that, and there were two separate occasions that they saw a deer. One picture is like the side profile of a deer with the rib hanging out like a cigar.
Hey, Bob, you gotta go take a taste of this guy.
Well, and they don't know if it was 2 separate days, and so they don't know if it's 2 different deer or if it's the same deer with that found a great snacking place. It is known that ungulates or hoofed mammals like deer do chew on bones to get minerals like phosphorus, calcium, and sodium, kind of like the butterflies do, into their diet. But this was a first for the researchers. The gnawed bones were recovered and studied to gather information about the markings the deer left, because that's important if you find remains and they have marks on them, you kind of need to know, is it teeth marks from scavengers or is it knife marks from being stabbed?
Right.
The SmithsonianMagazine.com article went on to say that this visit by a deer to the body farm isn't actually all that surprising, though. North Dakota researchers, this cracks me up. North Dakota researchers in 2015 set up cameras to study songbirds and discovered that, quote, deer would simply slurp baby birds out of the nest like candy. They found that more deer robbed the bird nests than did weasels or foxes.
Oh, man. Dude, that's not even really surprising at this point, because all kinds of things will eat birds, man. Like, for example, I learned this, like, on top of everything else that's weird about giraffes, which I could go on about giraffes, they will eat, like, birds that they just find dead to get these minerals and stuff. So this is, like, a huge thing with ungulates. And I knew that whenever I figured that out, I was like, man, really? We can't just, like, stick to being herbivores? It's weird.
and I've seen a picture of a squirrel chowing down on a bird and praying mantis. Did you know that? A praying mantis will
eat, yeah.
Oh, those inverts.
They will catch hummingbirds and eat the brains. So,
Yeah.
Also, a praying mantis is the only insect that can turn its head. Did you know that?
Yeah.
They are weird.
Well, you know, the hummingbird does come with a straw.
That's okay.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Tasty.
Let's go.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
move on. So you work now, okay, as a zookeeper at one of the top 10 most visited zoos in the United States.
Right.
And like we said, zoos do so much more than display animals. They work in conservation and to keep animals from going extinct. What animals do you work with now?
So I'm one of those weird cases where I work with almost everything that you can. It's crazy. I work with like everything from like a tarantula all the way up to giant river otters, and like a big like zebu, which is like a cow, and like everything in between. So I work with herps, or like snakes, reptiles, and amphibians, and then I work with like small mammals, and of course like my large mammals and like goats and stuff. I work with all kinds of stuff, all across the board.
What animal have you not worked with yet but would like to?
So an animal I have not worked with yet but would like to is actually like kind of a broad number of animals. That would be sea mammals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so these are like my astronaut dream like animals that I wanted to work with, because since like we live in Texas and there's like not a lot of opportunities to work with large sea mammals because they tend to live like, you know, up
in the northern
areas like orcas and stuff like that. And I've never really had that opportunity, like even in Galveston, and then like, you know, most internships that zookeepers can get, or like aquatic zookeepers, you could say, get are always like really expensive. Like they don't provide like housing and they make you pay for it, or like they don't provide like paid internships. Sometimes they make you pay for the internship, which I always thought was crazy. I'm like, I'm going to do work for free and pay you for it. Cool. Love that.
That's an interesting gig.
It really is. Zookeeping's a whole different ball game, and being an aquarist and stuff like that. So it's always kind of like been an astronaut dream to work with them, because they just have such like a similar cognitive ability like humans do. Our thought processes are very similar when considering like the animal kingdom versus like humans and stuff. So I've always wanted to work with them, but never had the opportunity. And even though the zoo I work with now does have some like aquatic mammals, I just also know more about like, you know, my land animals, my terrestrials too, and love them to death. It's not like I'm like, man, I gotta work with these terrestrials. I love my job. I love it a lot. But you know, that's always been one like area of animals I've always wanted to work with, like dolphins, orcas, beluga whales, like sea lions and stuff. So that would be it.
Well, what is you mentioned that you absolutely love your job. What's your favorite part of it?
So it's the part that every zookeeper would say, which is the animal side of it, the actual getting to work with the animals part, because even though our whole job is to take care of animals, we're spending most of the time cleaning up after them or doing like paperwork that involves animals, which is like a crazy concept, like to think about that we do a lot of paperwork, but
right,
we do. We put information into a computer program, well, it's actually part of the internet, so probably not so much a computer program, but it's called ZIMS Species 360. And it's literally documentation from facilities all over the world that come together to provide like information about like husbandry tactics, diets, even like DNA stuff, so that we can kind of figure out which animals would be more suitable for each other to diverse the genetics of a certain species.
Oh, I had no idea.
That's
That's
cool.
fascinating.
It is really, really cool. Fun fact about them, they used to actually be, I think it was International Species Information System, which the acronym for that is ISIS, which is awesome because they had that name before ISIS became, well, I guess like
Yes.
a well-known thing.
Right.
And they used to have like ISIS, I guess like recruitment, like conferences, and they had to quickly change that. So now they're Species 360. And so
That's great.
Yeah, it was super fun. Like sometimes still on documents, like at my facility, it'll say ISIS number, and I like have a heart attack. I'm like, the what? But yeah, it's really, Species 360 is so cool. I can look up like whatever like facility I want to, Alaska Sea Life Center, what they feed their like large like aquatic mammals and stuff.
Cool.
So like I can find all of that just through the system.
That's awesome.
What animal fact, trivia / behavior has surprised you the most?
I think probably, this one's like something I recently figured out. So researchers have been starting to delve into like what animals look like under blacklight here recently, because they recently figured out that on top of everything else weird about the platypus, they also glow under blacklight.
Of course
Why
they
not?
do.
Of course they
Sure
do.
not. Why not?
But it turns out that a lot of species actually do. Like a lot of marsupials from Australia and stuff like that, which, you know, all of them except like one is in Australia. One species of marsupial, which is the opossum in North America and like Central and South. Probably just North America. I'm going to stick with just North America because that's what I know. They live in North America. But all those marsupials down in Australia, like a lot of them glow under blacklight, and like I think some species of bird and stuff, it's real weird.
Wow. And so I think that the other animals can see blacklight. See, right?
I would assume, like, I don't know if they can really see under blacklight. I know that some of them can see like heat, so like ultraviolet.
Well, that's what I'm saying is they can see more spectrum of light than we can.
Right.
So
yeah, there are some species that can see like differently than we do. So there's a good chance that they do see like the black light
glowing, right?
but like there's no way for us to really like know for
Sure.
sure because like we can't see through their eyes. Be really cool though.
Well, absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about
what
all
does
of
a platypus see?
Right?
I need to know.
I bet somebody's working on that.
That'd be dope.
I bet somebody's working on that.
Just what is he thinking?
Oh.
I gotta beat up this laboratory scientist that's trying to take over the tri-state area. Phineas and Ferb.
That's right.
Amen.
Well, we've gone over all of your experience and everything. Do you have any stories that you want to, like wild and crazy stories that you want to
actually,
share?
we missed one facility.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, I worked with big cats at one point. That was really cool.
Big cats.
Yeah, so like...
So which big cats?
I worked with large carnivores. So I worked with tigers, lions, bears. So my...
Oh, my.
Yeah, there we go. I had to say it before everyone else did, because every time I lead with
just
that...
sang it along.
Exactly. We also had like jaguars and some smaller mammals and stuff like that. So
Now they're
was
kicking
really
into
cool.
the Baloo song I'm just singing.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, that was really cool. I got to work with some really interesting animals over there, including like there was a jaguar that we had. We only had one, and I still kind of have like nightmares about him escaping and stuff. The jaguars are scary. So like out of all of the animals there, I was pretty confident like that I might be able to not die if they got out. Probably like slim chance, but with the jaguar, 100%. No way. Like, there's no way I'm walking away from that. If he gets out, just lay down on the ground and, like, accept it. Like, there's no way you're getting out of that.
Well, and you have chased animals. And just to clarify that these sanctuaries or wildlife sanctuaries usually have a perimeter fence and then inside fences and that kind of thing.
Right.
But you were talking one time about chasing a wolf or chasing something that was climbing fences, jumping fences.
So I did work at a facility where like a larger canid got out. I don't want to name names or like make it obvious. But yeah, it was crazy. It was climbing fences faster than we could run after it. It was wild.
But the perimeter fence held it.
Exactly. So like it did its job, and we were able to like get the animal and secure it and put it back into its enclosure, and then fortify the enclosure to make sure that didn't happen again. So with large canids, the USDA recommendation is to have, I believe it's a 10-foot fence with a 3-foot lean-in barrier up top, and then a 3-foot dig guard going into the enclosure, because like large canids, they can dig really big dens, so like they can dig out, unless you have the dig guard. That's what it's for. But like even the 3-foot lean-in barrier wasn't enough for some of these animals, and I will say for the most part it was like low content canids. But yeah, and which escapes, like, even though we don't want them to happen, like, they happen at all facilities. If there's a facility that's like, nothing's ever escaped, they're lying. There's been cases where people have lied about it and then they get in trouble with the USDA. So just best to, like, own up to it. But even, like, the best zoos, sometimes, like, keeper error, like, you know, error on like the like enclosure gets compromised in some way. That always happens. So what matters is like if you can have a plan to get the animal back into its enclosure and back to safety as soon as possible. I'm happy to say that I've never had to experience a large cat getting out, though. That would be rest in peace. Just saying. So like at this facility, like even in their enclosures, they were really daunting. I was charged a lot by large cats, like lions and stuff. And, like, this one, we had one lion there. He was a big male. And one time I was just trying to, like, put in, like, a soaker hose for some plants or whatever, and he was just charging the fence at me, and I was like, I don't know about this. Like, we weren't in the same space. So, a fun little, like, keeper thing that you might hear us say is that, like, we have some certain, like, distinctions between contact we have with the animal. So there's protected contact, which is there's you, a barrier, and then the animal is on the other side of this barrier. Right. Then there's like semi-protected is I think the term, where like it's a low barrier, so you can kind of like reach over. So like we have some for like pigs and like llamas and cows and stuff like that. And then you have free contact, which is being in the same space as the animal. So at the cat facility, everything was 100% like protected contact, and actually no contact for me as an intern at this facility, because they were like, nope, no touching, nothing. Yeah. And I was like, fair enough, not worried about it, don't want to touch it. Like,
it's cute from this distance.
Exactly. Like, and I always thought, like, low key, if you're in the animal field, there's no doubt about it. You're just like, there's something wrong with you. Like, you're crazy. Not gonna, like, I'm not even gonna, like, sugarcoat it. There's something going on. But, like, it was honestly some of the cooler experiences I had was seeing them charge. Because, like, I kind of got to see, like, their wild instincts at that moment. And also, they just look super cool. It's, like, my most toxic trait. Like, they just look so cool whenever they're running after you, trying to kill you. Like,
it's so graceful.
It's really pretty. Like, I'll pass away, like, just thinking about how pretty this thing looks as it's just, like, coming right for me. It's great.
The jaguar's so slick.
Yeah. Well, actually, I probably wouldn't even see him coming. That's how silent and quick
we have you recorded. We're going to play this at your funeral.
Oh, perfect. Good thing I don't work with large carnivores anymore, so that probably won't happen, as far as I know. I don't know. We'll see.
How'd she die? A singing dog.
A singing dog. Bowie licked me to death. But yeah, so whenever I was at this facility, there was also one time where I was, like, next to this enclosure. It was maybe, like, a few feet away, like 2-3 feet, if that. I don't know. Distance is hard in my head. It was very close to me. Close enough to where, like, I could just, I don't know. I'll get to the story. It'll explain it a little better. So there was, like, a hose box that was next to the fence, and I went to go, like, turn off the water in this hose box, and one of the tigers had come up to the fence, like, right where I was. And so I'm trying to, like, be gentle and not startle him and just, like, stand up slowly, like you're supposed to, like a good, like, keeper. And he is one of those animals that likes to just cause problems on purpose and just be obnoxious and like try to get a reaction out of people. So he just full on roared right in my face, like right there. And like tigers can be heard for miles sometimes, like with their roars, and it literally just fills up the entirety of your body, like whenever they roar at you. It's like sound is reverberating in your bones and in your chest. Yeah. And so the thing about this though is if you're working with an animal every day and it decides to test you this way, you can't react. Like if you do, he will do it forever and ever and ever.
It's like raising a child.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Honestly, there's a lot of like crossover in the animal field and raising
behavior.
kids.
Yes,
exactly.
Even adults.
Exactly. Yeah, dealing with people, I'm like, I'm not going to reinforce that behavior.
That's right. Don't react.
So whenever they're yelling at you, it's like, I'm going to need you to be less emotional, actually. But anyway.
Becky's listening to this and going, you guys let him talk?
But yeah, it just roared right in my face. And it's just... it was really cool and like very nerve-wracking, and of course everything in your body is like run away and like scream and like, you know, all the normal like you're definitely not the apex predator in this situation kind of reaction. But I had to just stand there and take it and just stare at him like nothing happened, and it was great. I did like a good job. I'm not even gonna like, I'll toot my own horn a little bit over here. Like, I did a good job. And then he got really mad because I didn't, like, get scared and, like, run away. So he kind of, like, hissed at me a little bit and was like, you know, like, and then, like, grumbling at me. And I was like, dude, just get a grip. I'm just going to walk away now. Like, I don't even, like, I don't know. This is your house, I guess. But, like, please don't treat me that way. It was crazy. Working with those guys is something completely different. As well as, like, most animals, honestly.
Well, we have one last unbelievable animal story. A 2019 article in YellowstoneGate.com talks about a, quote, geyser virus that is turning a lot of small wild animals into zombies.
That's how we're all going to die.
Listen, this could be it. To quote the article, local and regional public health officials are working with researchers in Yellowstone National Park to learn more about the origins and life cycle of a strange virus that could be causing highly aggressive behavior in small wildlife in the park and surrounding areas, unquote. A CDC investigator working inside Yellowstone says that a thermophilic virus, thermophilic meaning it can thrive at really high temperatures, okay?
Oh, joy.
A thermophilic virus found in one of the geyser pools seems to be at the heart of the problem. The virus is mostly harmless, but when it comes into contact with certain fungus that grows on a certain plant common in the area, the virus mutates into a highly potent strain. It is then carried by flies to the small mammals in the park. When they become infected, their body temperatures rise. Like you were talking about, a cheetah? When they run, they can run and run and run and run so much that their body temperature rises and cooks their brain. Right.
Yep, they lose literal brain cells. It's crazy.
Well, this virus affects these small mammals by rising their body temperature so dramatically that it causes them to act with unprecedented aggression. The phenomenon was first noticed when a series of bizarre wildlife encounters were reported by hikers and visitors to the park. Rangers at first didn't quite believe one woman when she reported that a marten, which is a 2-foot-long, 4-pound member of the weasel family, so little mammal, attacked and killed her dog. But the woman had taken a video with her phone, and so it proved her story. The rangers looked at the incident and were able to rule out rabies as the cause. And I should mention that the poor dog was a 125-pound Great Pyrenees.
Oh, my goodness. He got taken.
Yes, he did. And how horrible. Let's go to the park. Yeah. And, yes, and this be your
final
experience.
Resting place.
Right. Other instances of aggressive behavior by small animals in the area include a pika, a small rodent that looks a lot like a rabbit with short ears, chewed and clawed through a Yeti cooler
That's impressive.
to get to a bag of turkey jerky. Makes me think of the rabbit in Monty Python.
Yeah.
Big pointy teeth. This isn't really funny, but it is. A ground squirrel that was seen fighting off 2 gray wolves. A yellowtail, or, I'm sorry,
Suddenly Kung Fu Panda kicks into mind.
a yellow-bellied marmot that was able to break into a bear-proof steel food storage box in order to eat an entire box of Lucky Charms cereal.
Oh my
I'm sorry.
word.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if it's your last meal.
What else are you gonna
It's
do?
magically delicious. And a beaver leaping 30 feet through the air to bite through the jugular vein of a draft horse, a family draft horse.
That's an amazing leap.
While there's no signs that the virus can infect humans, the CDC specialist said, let's put it this way. Quote, okay, listen, this is a quote. Let's put it this way. You've seen shows and movies like The Walking Dead and 28 Days Later. I would at least advise that everyone invest in the best bug repellent they can get their hands on right now. Okay, I got my info from YellowstoneGate.com and also from another I heard this story on another podcast, and I'm just saying, I looked into YellowstoneGate.com, and it seems to be a legit site.
Oh, no.
But I couldn't find this story anywhere else. I couldn't find any more information on this story. So I'm challenging all the listeners out there. Tell me if this is real or not. Because it sounds a beaver leaping 30 feet through the air to bite through the jugular. I mean,
that's an amazing leap.
That is amazing.
That's pretty impressive.
And
That's a huge leap.
yeah.
For a beaver.
Is it distance-wise or straight up?
Right.
That's my question.
Now I'm thinking it's not straight up because no horse is that tall.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It sounds so
30
crazy.
feet.
But
How much
this
of a running
site,
start would that need to be?
Like for 30 feet? Man, I don't know. Like, I don't even know if tigers can do that on a normal day. I know they can jump high, but...
Yes, it's still 30 feet from where it was to hit the jugular of a
through
horse.
the air to bite through the jugular vein of a draft horse.
Like, jump off a rock?
Was
was
it a downward motion?
Yeah, it's
Did
not.
he start from a high plane?
It's not falling. I mean, it's not flying. It's falling gracefully. Right.
Yeah.
It's falling with style.
Falling with style. But, so if you guys can find this information, YellowstoneGate.com. Look at the site, see if it's legitimate, because it looked like it to me. I mean, it had real stories on there, and
then this one.
Then this one.
Babylon.
Okay.
And I tried looking up more. I could not find any more of this story anywhere else. So it may not be true, but it's interesting nonetheless.
Rest in peace if it is.
Find the CDC, people.
Okay.
And now it's time, boys and girls, for the Trivia Challenge.
But you guys know what time it is. You know the deal. We have our Trivia Challenge. So, you know the rules. Like and follow our Facebook page at Remnant Stew Podcast. Then you need to like and share the episode post. And then you need to put your answer to the Trivia Challenge question in the comments of that post. So, the first person to do all that will be the winner and will be mentioned in an upcoming episode of Remnant Stew. We are also opening our Trivia Challenge up to school kids. If your classroom listens to Remnant Stew and they want to answer the trivia question, then send us an email with their answer to staycurious@remnantstew.com. If your class wins, we will send a cool little care package to the class.
Okay. In the presence of a predator, many animals do things to make themselves look bigger to ward off an attack. This particular animal releases a toxic slime from its neck while also expanding its rib cage in such a way that the ribs often pierce the skin and protrude from the side of the animal. That's very gnarly looking. Mm-hmm. Name that animal.
Hey, thanks for spending some time with us. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Remnant Stew Podcast. You can also send us an email to say hi or suggest a topic for a future episode at staycurious@remnantstew.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Remnant Stew is now a part of Rook and Raven Ventures and is created by me, Leah Lamp. I want to say thanks to Bailey for coming in and helping me write and host today's episode.
Thank you.
Our audio producer is Philip Sinquefield. Theme music is by Kevin MacLeod with voiceover by Morgan Hughes. Special thanks goes out to Steve and Judy Meeker and Harbin Gould.
Alrighty, please hit the follow button so you won't miss an episode. Head over to Apple Music and leave us a review. Share Remnant Stew with your friends and family, veterinarian, local zookeeper, anybody like that. And until next time, remember to choose to be kind and
always stay curious.